So this is actually, I have the honor of sharing with you today is the first of, let's say, a two-part series, because Andre will be spending time with you today as we talk about, kicking off. Let's kick off strong. It's the beginning of the year. Yes, we're in February now, but I want to say that whether we're in February or, I don't know, November, at any point in your life, you can choose to restart your life, restart your business, and get off strong. So this morning, I want to spend some time, sharing some thoughts with you about going from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games, right? You can push yourself from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games. And we're going to get into, it's actually a metaphor, right? I am actually from Olympic Gardens, and I did compete in the Olympic Games. But I use, my life journey also as a metaphor for how all of us can get from our own Olympic Gardens to our Olympic Games. Now, speaking of that, one of the questions I'm always asked, because whenever people discover I'm from the original Jamaican bobsled team, is which character played me in the movie. And I'm gonna guess that you are also wondering that, so I'll just tell you up front that I was a coach. I was played by John Candy. Most people find it hard to believe, when you look at John Candy and you look at me now, but all I can say is that I went on a diet and I got a tan. And this is a new me, and I'm hoping that you like it. I'm sure you're not buying that, so I guess I have to come clean to say the characters in the movie are really different from real life characters. So if I had to choose one, I'd say I was Yul Brynner, played by Malik Yoba. He was a guy that was a dreamer. He wanted to go to Buckingham Palace to live. And that's how I see myself as well, as a dreamer. And as we talk about going from Olympic Gardens to Olympic Game to the Olympic Games, as you embark on your own journey from Olympic Gardens from your Olympic Gardens to your Olympic Games, I promise you, you have to start that journey with a dream. So the next question people ask is, so Jamaica is smack in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. We're 90 miles from Cuba, our nearest neighbor. It's a 90-minute flight up to Miami. So how in the world then does someone come up with the idea to start a bobsled team in Jamaica? And well, the story is that two Americans who lived in Jamaica, George Fitch, William Maloney, they had business and family connections there. And the story is that they were in a local bar in Kingston, drinking, and they began to discuss this idea that Jamaicans believe that we have the best women and athletes in the world. Now, I've been to Slovenia. I know that you would perhaps disagree with that statement, but that's what we believe in Jamaica. And so they wanted to put that theory to the test. Here was the challenge. There was no way for them to test the former without getting in trouble with their wives. So they decided to put the latter to the test. And if you've seen Cool Runnings, you remember there were these guys riding down the side of a mountain in a cart. And it looks like bobsledding, except for the ice, two crazy guys going down the hill. And then they discovered that a big part of a bobsled race is a start. You need sprinters. And of course, we have lots of sprinters in Jamaica. I often remind my American friends that although they have more sprinters than we do in Jamaica, our sprinters are faster, so we still win. But so armed with this bit of information, George and Will approached the guys on our summer team to try and get them interested in this bobsled idea. And the response was, Bob, who? Man, we live in Jamaica. The only Bob we know is Bob Marley, and he's dead. No, thank you. So that didn't work out. So they came to the Army looking for athletes. At the time, I was a young lieutenant in the Jamaica Defense Force. And, my colonel suggested that I tried out for the team. I didn't volunteer. I was told to go to the team trials. Now, in terms of sports and sports background, actually, my first love in sports was actually soccer. But growing up in Jamaica, I ended up running track, and you'd think that I was a sprinter. Well, maybe I was a sprinter, but by Jamaican standards, I was not a fast sprinter. So I ran middle distances. I ran 800 and 1500 meters because I really wanted a chance to win something. So that's kind of my sporting background. How do you select a bobsled team in Jamaica, you might be wondering? Well, interestingly, the very same way the major nations selected their team. So you had to sprint 30, 60, 100 meters, 300 meters through a short put from between your legs and do what we call a push test with a makeshift sled. So basically, they're testing speed and explosive power. Now, as a middle distance runner, the only test there that I was comfortable with was a 300-meter run, because that's what I did for speed work as a middle distance runner. But, you know, I tried my darnest, tried and tried. There are two guys from the American bobsled team who had come down to Jamaica to give us a test. And I remember one of them saying to me, "You had a good day today." And I was encouraged. I went back to the Army base. I fell asleep. It was a Friday evening, and I was so exhausted from 2 days of effort. I slept through the entire night. I woke up on Saturday morning, and my friends are calling me the Olympian. Well, apparently that night, Friday night, on the sports news, they announced that Jamaica had a bobsled team, and my name was called. So I'm excited, cautiously so, because I haven't been told anything yet, and I'm in the Army, so they can tell me, no, you have duties, you can't go bobsledding. But 2 weeks after that, I got an airline ticket, and they say, "Hey, you're going bobsledding." And I turned up at the airport in Kingston, and I meet 3 other guys who are recognized from the team trials. I didn't know them before. So this is an early picture of us. The white guy is obviously not one of the team members. That's George Fitch, one of the Americans who came up with the idea. Next to him is Michael White. Mikey was a private in the Army, a sprinter, the fastest guy on the team. Next to Mikey is Samuel Clayton. Sammy was the only civilian, actually. He was an engineer with our railway company. Unfortunately, Sammy passed last March, so almost a year now, because of COVID. And that's me next to Sammy. I was a lieutenant and a platoon commander. And that's Dudley Stokes finishing up the 4. He was an Army captain and a helicopter pilot. So we flew up to New York and drove to Lake Placid, which is about 5 hours north from where I live now. And there we met our coach, Howard Seiler, the other white guy you see there. Now, that black thing you see amongst us there, between us there, folks, that is a 2-man bobsled that Howard had on his driveway. And it's the first bobsled we're seeing in our lives. Now, this was September 1987. The Olympics, if you may recall, was in February of '88, and that's the first time we're seeing a bobsled. That weekend we saw a bobsled track, obviously for the first time. The American bobsled team was in Lake Placid practicing their starts on an ice rink, and so they invited us to practice with them. And so this is the first time we're seeing more ice than you can fit in a tall glass of lemonade. And I remember, you know, we stroll out on the ice and we go, "Oh, let's go beat them." I mean, the audacity, right? You've never seen ice or snow or bobsled before, and you think you're just going to go beat these Americans. It didn't happen, man. We spent more time on our butts than we spent pushing the sled. And I'm thinking, wow, this bobsled thing is harder than I thought. But we survived the weekend and we returned to Jamaica to practice, to continue preparing. And so this is us here in Jamaica training on the Army base. Now, the thing about this picture for me is that makes me chuckle is the fact that every single thing we're doing in this photo is wrong. The position of the hands, the backs, the knees, the elbows is all wrong. But that's what we thought we had learned in this one training sessions with the Americans. The bigger life lesson, though, for us is this. You should never, ever, ever wait until everything is perfect to go pursue your dreams. Sure, there's something to be said about doing your research and trying to get as much information as you can. You know, you want to start a business or whatever goal or dream you might have. But I think we all know this intuitively. If you sit there waiting for everything, every single thing to be perfect before you get started, you're going to be waiting for a really long time, like forever, because things will never, ever be perfect. You have to start from where you are. What I've discovered in my life is that as you start, you gain more knowledge along the way. You become smarter, become more knowledgeable, and you're able to progress, right? I tell people all the time, you have to, jump off the cliff and learn to fly on your way down. So that's how we started. I've competed in 3 Olympic Games. Our nation has competed in 8, and we started there doing every single thing wrong. That's how we trained. 3 hours every afternoon, 6 hours on a Saturday morning. We just push this thing in the boiling sun back and forth. Then eventually we went to Calgary in October of 87, and we went on a bobsled track for the first time. So now technically we are bobsledders. And then we went to Innsbruck, Austria in near the end of November of 87. Did 1 race against the B teams from the major nations. Went home for Christmas. Went back to Lake Placid, New York in January 88. And then from there we went to the Olympics. So that's it. That is a sum total of our bobsled knowledge and experience heading into Calgary. And here we are at the Olympics in Calgary. And it may not be so obvious to you, but oh my word, we are so much better here. One of the things you have to recognize about success is that most of what you will need is skill-based. And what do we know about skills? There are things that you learn and you practice and you develop, and over time you get really, really good at it. And so, that's what we did. When you start initially, you suck. Really, you're just not very good. Saying suck is the technical psychological term for incompetence, right? You're not good, but after a while you can get really, really good. Now, let me jump back here because I really want to toggle back and forth between this and me. Here's something that's not in the movie, and if it were, people go, come on, that just doesn't make any sense. It's really corny. The guy in the blue, Chris Stokes, was not on the team at the start of the Olympics. And Andre will tell you that this is just like one of the most bizarre Olympic stories ever. He comes to the Olympics to watch his brother race, and it's a week of the 4-man event. We were not entered in the 4-man. We had never done 4-man before. This is the first time Chris is seeing a bobsled, and we recruited him that week, and in 3 days we taught him everything we knew about pushing a sled. And yes, at the end of the week we came off the hill with the 7th fastest start time. But I think you know already how the story ended up. We crashed spectacularly, man. That's us there trying to exit stage left. And it was really one of the low points, if not the lowest points of the entire experience. Because here it is, we had so many people who were saying, this is not possible, you don't belong, you should go home. And we are like, well, we are here, so might as well we try. And, in crashing, in failing in front of the entire world, we gave credence to all the people who believed we didn't belong. In addition to that, it felt awful because we felt that we had let down an entire nation. But the big lesson here again is the one I want to point out. The fact that failure isn't fatal. It isn't. It's when you fail, it really is an opportunity for you to learn, for you to go back to the drawing board and figure out, what do you need to do to get to where you need to go. So go back. So we failed and we went home, and then of course I competed in 2 other Olympic Games. This picture here is a picture of the stamps that the Jamaican government put out in our honor. It was kind of crazy. Here it is that we thought that Jamaica was going to ridicule us, and instead they made stamps with our faces on it. So that was a pretty cool.
Devon,
yeah.
Sorry for interruption. We don't see your presentation. We see your beautiful smile, but...
oh, is that what you're saying? All right. Sorry, let's go back here. Thank you for that, Andre. Sure. I'm trying to toggle back and forth.
Thanks.
All right. So yeah, please keep me on track here. So this is what I was just talking about, the stamps. And so it was kind of cool because it was before, you know, text messages and emails and so on. And so a friend would write me, and on the envelope would be a stamp with my face on it. I'm like, wow, what a handsome devil, you know, kind of thing. But it's kind of cool. So then so in Calgary, I was a #2 guy in that 4 months that I was right behind the driver. So I became a driver. So this is me in Albertville 92 as a driver. And then in Nagano 98. So you know, Andre and I crossed paths in Nagano. So since my time on the bobsled circuit, I've had a chance to become a motivation speaker, kind of traveling around the world. Not so much these days. I get to do this virtually now. Speaking, I've written a couple of books. Spend time visiting the troops, you know, across the U.S. and a little bit overseas. Bernardo mentioned that I'm a philanthropist. So this is me as part of a group called Right to Play. It's athletes using sports and play to teach life skills, health skills, conflict resolution. So this is us in Sierra Leone, a country ravaged by HIV and AIDS and civil war. So we get to spend time with these kids, and when they're in our program, they get to live as kids. This is me at my old elementary school. We support a breakfast program and a school supplies program at the school. So, you know, so far we have fed over 6,000 kids at the school. We support a school supplies program as well, book bags and pencils and so on. And we just finished building, erecting this building here. We call it a sick bay. I'm not sure, you know, Americans don't have a term for it, more an English term, but it's really a place for kids who aren't feeling so well during the day to have a place to rest. And, you know, because it's such a tough, violent environment, there's a quiet space here as well for the guidance counselor to help and coach and guide some of the kids through. So that's in a nutshell. Let me jump back here then. I think you're seeing me now. In a nutshell, what I've been to and been through, you know, and so I wanted to, talk to you. Let me jump into that about taking this journey from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games. As I said, it really is a metaphor. Olympic Gardens represents that place in our life that we find unsavory, that place that we would rather not be, and we're dreaming of a better place, a better life, a better situation, right? And usually Olympic Gardens is not a place or experience of your choosing. Life has its way of giving us our challenges, right? But we have the ability to strive, to dream, to push ourselves to the Olympic Games. You know, as Andre will tell you, it's a rather challenging, circuitous journey to get to the Olympic Games, but it represents, at least at that point in your life, the pinnacle of your accomplishments. Something that you can absolutely be proud of. And so I want to, during the time I have, share some thoughts with you. I want to share with you 6 ideas on how you yourself can make the journey from your Olympic Gardens to your Olympic Games. All right, so if you're done with that, let me get some thumbs up from you guys there. All right, awesome. So let's do this. Let's jump back in. The first thing you need to make that journey from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games is that you need to create a vision, right? All of us, I think, the challenge for most of us is to recognize that we actually have the ability to harness the power of our vision to create a life that we really want, right? Regardless of the unsavory, the unacceptable conditions that we find ourselves in, we can steer our lives personally, professionally, individually, collectively as a team, we can steer our lives in the direction that we want it to go. And that means that you have to create a vision. And what is a vision? Vision is this image that you have in your mind of a far more dynamic, far more vibrant, far more compelling future than what you have here now. It's what I call a preferred future state. Is that which you aspire to achieve? Is that which you aspire to become, that which you aspire to create in your life, right? It's you saying, hey, I'm going to create this clear alternate view of the world, this clear alternate view of your world. You are creating this clear alternate view of your world and how different it could look tomorrow compared to today once you have made certain significant changes in your life. You know, the fact of the matter is, let me stop here for a minute. The fact of the matter is that there are many, oh, come on. My cursor isn't working. There you go. There are many circumstances in our lives that we have absolutely no control over, no choices over, right? We didn't get to choose who our parents are. We didn't get to choose where we were raised, where we went to school. We don't have any control over the things that the government does or what the market does. You know, here it is that we're in the middle of a global pandemic and we didn't have any control over the fact that that got started, right? None of us could have imagined when we started out 2020 last year that the year would have slid down the way it did with the tremendous challenges that all of us are experiencing globally. So yes, there are all these things that we have absolutely no control over. What does that mean? Does it mean that we are now left to fate, that, you know, whatever it is that happens, that's all there is to our lives? I think you know the answer to that is no, absolutely not, right? So I want to share with you, I'll jump back to my slide here, a quick formula. C plus P equal O. C is for circumstances, the circumstances in our lives that we just established you have absolutely no control over. And then the P is for perception, how you choose to perceive, how you choose to see the circumstances that you find yourself in, which you have every control over, tremendous control over. C plus P equals the outcomes. And so again, regardless of where you find yourself, regardless of what you're experiencing, it could be, yes, this COVID-19 pandemic, could be some other crisis, a health crisis, a financial crisis, a relationship crisis, whatever it is, a business crisis, you're experiencing it. How are you going to perceive that? How are you, what images are you going to create in your mind, this alternate view of the world? That is going to determine the outcome that you experience. So I mentioned I grew up in Olympic Gardens, right? So when you do that, you have to recognize that your vision gives you a sense of what is possible. As you're looking out from your experience, you're like, this is possible. This is what I'm creating in my mind, and this is possible. So growing up in Kingston, Olympic Gardens, as I mentioned, this is the actual house I grew up in. I took this picture, it's probably 10 years ago now. But it's, you know, the same size and the same kind of blue and white and green paint that was on the house when I was growing up. You know, where you see the Keep On Pushing logo, that room was where my parents were, and I was in the other room, the adjacent room, you know, with my 3 other brothers growing up and sleeping on the same bed. That's kind of what it looks like from the street. And you know, when I was in high school, just hanging out, this lamppost right here was my favorite hangout spot. And I often tell people that I'm not embarrassed to say it, I was doing the D word there when I was there. When I ask people what do they think the D word is, they go, drugs? And I'm like, no, man, I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't dealing. I was dreaming. I was dreaming, you see, from my vantage point at that lamppost, I had a really clear view of Forest Hills, lined with big, beautiful mansions. You know, I'm talking about houses that look like this. This is Forest Hills right here. So I would just stand there and dream about, you know, speaking to an awesome group from Slovenia. Well, that dream came later, but just dream about being out of the neighborhood and doing some really cool things. And so I'm kind of wondering, my Slovenian friends, imagine that, metaphorically speaking, this was your situation, right? You wake up every morning and this is what you're experiencing, right? This represents your Olympic Gardens, whatever that is, whether it's a health crisis or a financial crisis or whatever. And when you're looking around, there's nothing in your environment that would suggest that success is even remotely possible, right? You're looking at your business, let's say, and it's like, man, the market just sucks. There's nothing that suggests that success is possible. Do you think, at least in your mind, you could create this? Because that's what we're talking about, you know, the journey, the beginning of the journey from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games, or up to Forest Hills, as I'm looking at it, begins in your mind. And you have to remember that each of us, without exception, has the ability to become that which we aspire to be. And the only limitations, the only real limitations, are the ones we impose on ourselves through the limits of our imagination. So I didn't articulate it in that way back then, but obviously I was living it. So here it is, less than a year after high school, I went from living in this little shack here to living here. This is the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst in England. That's the most prestigious military training school in the world, the school of Winston Churchill, Field Marshal Montgomery, King Hussein of Jordan, Princes Harry and William, and graduated from Sandhurst a number of years ago. And yes, so have I, this kid from Olympic Gardens. 3 years or so, 3.5 years after high school, I went from running on a gravel-strewn dirt track to creating history, sprinting on ice. You know, I read a quote a while back. I want to share with you. I might mess it up a little bit, but it says that you must create a vision that inspires you to reach your greatest potential, while at the same time transform you into a valuable source of to the world, right? So as you can see, when you choose to create a vision and go after it, you're doing two things. You're allowing yourself to become the best that you can possibly be, and in the process, you are inspiring others to do the same as well. So it seems like it just makes, it's a win-win for everybody. Let me jump back. The next thing that you absolutely need to do is that you have to take personal responsibility. You have to take personal responsibility for your life. Well, how do I put this? You have to know, am I sharing my, are you still seeing my screen, or are you seeing me? Okay, all right, you're seeing me. All right, right, so you, my friend, I, all of us, we're responsible for our lives. Regardless of what happens to us, we are responsible for our lives. We're responsible for how it turns out, regardless of where we find ourselves, right? And the first time I heard it articulated that way, it kind of felt a little bit like a parachute jump, right? It was scary and it was exciting at the same time. Scary, and I know because I've jumped from a plane. I used to be young and foolish. And it's one of the scariest things I've ever done, jump from a plane. But it was also one of the most exhilarating things. So when you think about the fact that you are responsible for your own life, I can see how you could see it as scary or exhilarating. You could see it as scary or as empowering. It's scary because if you're creating results in your life that you don't like, it's scary because you're like, wow, I'm responsible for this. The flip side of it, though, is that you're saying, hey, I have the ability to change my circumstances. I have the ability to change my outcomes regardless of the circumstances that I find myself in. And so my challenge to you is to indeed accept this idea that you are responsible for your life. And as they say, if it's to be, it's up to me. The challenge with most people is that they look at their circumstances and they kind of throw their hands in the air. They think they have no ability to change their circumstances. They don't accept responsibility for changing their circumstances. And when you do that, what you do is that you disempower yourself. You take away the power that you have to change your circumstances, and you fall into this victim mindset, right? And this author already says the victim mindset dilutes the human potential. When you're not accepting responsibility for your circumstances, yes, you greatly reduce your power to change those circumstances. I just shared with you the formula C plus P equals O. Circumstances plus potential perception equals outcomes. I want to change it up a little bit. Very similar, right? So the events in your life, when you add the responses, you get certain outcomes, right? So the events, again, like the circumstances, you have no control over, but you can always choose how you respond. And I think we know that to the events, and that is going to determine the outcomes that you get. The word responsibility, the two root words of it is response and ability. So basically what I'm saying to you is that regardless of what happens to you, you have the ability to choose how you respond. Now, I know that many times we find ourselves in circumstances and there's a certain way that we would really like to respond. But if we were to take a step back, just kind of catch our breath and think about it, we realize that, you know what, this response here that I'm thinking about will not create the best outcome. We have to remember that every action has a consequence. And so regardless of where we are, regardless of our situations, we have to think about how we're going to respond to it. Because in the end, we want to be the best version of ourselves, right? My challenge, my encouragement to you is to be always thinking about, hey, what is the best version of myself? How can I put that forward? How can I work towards achieving the best version of myself? And that comes back to taking responsibility for your actions and the direction that your life is going to go, right? Regardless of everything else that's swirling around you. And so the first thing you may want to do is to anticipate and adapt to the circumstances that you find yourself in. So, it's raining right now in Slovenia. So I think this is an appropriate response, right? You'll hear people say all the time, man, I got caught in the rain. Well, if you're like me and, I don't really watch the weather so much, you could get caught in the rain, and that would be my responsibility, right? If you are anticipating and preparing, then you go, oh, it may rain today. The weatherman says it may rain today. I'm going to take my umbrella, right? And so many of us find ourselves getting caught in the rain of life because we simply didn't anticipate what was going to happen. We didn't prepare ourselves. And when you prepare yourselves, you increase your chance of success, right? When you take the umbrella out and it rains, you pull the umbrella up and you're prepared. You have adapted to the particular situation. And so whether it is the weather, as literally, or the climate of the economy, the situation in your relationship, the situation in your business. You know, it is your responsibility to anticipate what may be coming down the line, and then adapt yourself so that you can appropriately respond to the situation and achieve success. It's also important, I think, to be in the moment. Again, I don't think I can stress this too much, that circumstances, things happen, right, that you have no control over. And so when that happens, usually things that you don't want to happen is where we kind of run off the rails. People start to, the word I use is catastrophize. You start to think about all the worst possible outcomes that are waiting for you down the line. And it is such a disempowering way to live. It's such a disempowering mindset, because you cannot, all you're doing is creating what I call a self-fulfilling prophecy. The things that you're thinking about eventually happens in your life. And so my challenge to you is to remain in the moment, right? Because the present, like this present moment, is where you have the power to exert, or you have the ability to exert your power, right? You could think of, let's say, moving a piece of furniture, a table in your room. You can think about moving it tomorrow. You can think that you should have, or you moved it yesterday, but the only point in time in which you can actually exert the power to move it is now. You can think about solving a business problem tomorrow, or wish you had solved it yesterday, but the only time that you're going to solve it is now. So you need to learn to be in the moment. And then I think it's really important to accept things as they are. This is a situation you find yourself in. Athletes going to the Olympic Games have to deal with, unforeseen circumstances all the time, and injury. Andre and I, who compete in outdoor sports, we have to deal with ever-changing weather conditions. It's just, and perhaps your competition went down before you on a nice track, and now it's all slushy and soft. You have to accept things as they are. Stop wishing that things were different, people, because you're wasting energy wishing that things were different. You simply have to accept it. And acceptance doesn't mean resignation. Acceptance simply means that you're acknowledging that this is a playing field. These are the circumstances that you're facing. These are the challenges that you need to solve. And so your energy needs to go into figuring out how you're going to solve the things that you're dealing with, right? When you resign yourself, which is very different from acceptance, you're basically throwing in the towel. You're throwing your hands in the air and you're saying, well, fate has played me this hand and there's nothing I can do about it. And I think we know, based on our conversation earlier, that that's garbage, right? You have the ability to do something about it. So stop making excuses. Stop making excuses, because it doesn't push you forward. It doesn't help you to get from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games. It pushes you into complacency. I think about our experience on the team. And as I explained to you before, basically in 4 months, we went from not knowing what a bobsled was to competing in the Olympic Games. And we crashed spectacularly. We had plenty of legitimate excuses, right? To say, yeah, we crashed, we're from Jamaica, it's 96 degrees in the shade, etc., etc. I want to challenge you, even when you have legitimate excuses, not to make them, right? Ignore those quote unquote facts and push yourself to get to where you need to be. Because if you start thinking about the excuses, you're going to settle. You're going to settle for far less than you're capable of, right? And you're going to miss out on the opportunity to learn and to grow, because you're going to go, well, we didn't achieve this because of these 1, 2, or 3 legitimate excuses. Throw them out the window and keep pushing yourself past the complacency Yes, take your lickings. When you fail, just use those as opportunities to learn and to grow. And then I want to encourage you, man, this is really important. Be kind to yourself. We are so good at belittling and berating ourselves when things don't go right. You are human, right? You are human. You are not perfect. You are going to make mistakes. You're going through a learning curve, dealing with situations that you probably had no power over creating yourself. And so learn to value yourself, learn to speak kindly and encouragingly to yourself. You know, think about it this way. You have a friend, a family member, whoever, somebody close to you, and they're going through a tough time. If you're a good friend, what do? Do you berate them and curse them out and tell them they're stupid? No, you don't. You speak to them kindly and encouragingly, right? You try to find words to lift them up and to motivate them. For some reason, we don't do that to ourselves. For some reason, we think that we should curse ourselves out and, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm so useless. It is such the wrong approach to make. So I'm going to encourage you, please, please, please be kind to yourself. Which takes me to number 3, right? Be clear about your why. Where are we? I am.
Devon, sorry. If you want to make a presentation, put it on because we see you.
Oh, you're seeing me. Okay. So, okay. All right. All right, cool. So be very clear about your why. So we started out with a vision, and the vision really speaks about where you want to go. Where do you want to go? The why is about why. Why do you want to go there? Why do you want to go from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games? You know, oftentimes when I speak about why, people tend to think in terms of purpose. And I think purpose is really important, but I see purpose more as how you want to change the world around you, the difference you want to make in the world, as opposed to the difference that you want to make in your world. So when I was standing at that lamppost in Olympic Gardens, I promise you, I was not thinking about how I was going to change the world. I was thinking about how I was going to change my world. But I think that as we launch, as we change our perception, we create this vision and we start launching and achieving some success, it's the onus is on us. I think it's important to start thinking about how you're going to change your world. And so me speaking to you, me doing what I do, Andre and I, it's, we have gone from changing our world, trying to get to the Olympic Games, literally in this case, but figuratively as well, to how we're going to pursue a larger purpose outside of ourselves. But what I want to really encourage you to do for now is to focus on how you are going to change your world, right? And so think about your why. And when we think about why, we're thinking about motivation, right? Motivation is an interesting thing because a lot of people seem to think that it comes from outside of themselves. It comes from, the boss offering them a bonus or whatever it is. That's what psychologists would call that extrinsic motivation. And it does work. I agree, it does work, right? But it has its limitations, because what happens when that external source of your motivation is gone, right? A lot of people sitting around, waiting on the guy or the girl to get them excited and get them going, waiting for the boss to offer them, like I said, a special bonus. But when that external motivation is taken away, then the desire to go after your dreams also dissipates. real motivation comes from within, right? The word motivation is, again, a contraction of two words, motive and action. So the issue here is, what are your motives? What are the reasons that are going to drive you to take the actions that you need to take in order to achieve your goals, right? That's why you call it intrinsic motivation. That comes from within. And I promise you, anybody who's making that journey from Olympic Gardens up to the Olympic Games are intrinsically motivated. Are there some extrinsic, external motivations along the way? Absolutely. But the stronger motivation is coming from within, right? Somebody once says that he who has a why can endure anything. When you can really connect with the reason why you want to achieve your goals, you will figure out and you will endure any difficulty to achieve it. Because the fact of the matter is, when you set these, big audacious goals, as we spoke about when we talk about creating vision, you often don't have a clue about how you're going to achieve it. But when you have that why inside, oh my God, then it's a game changer. It's absolutely is a game changer. And so when I think about my early days, what was my why? Hey, I just wanted to get out of the ghettos, man. And although the Army Officer Corps and Sandhurst seemed a world away, and I honestly had no clue how I was going to pull it off. When the opportunity came up to make the bobsled team, and I had absolutely no idea how I was going to do it, I had this strong why that really wanted to change my life. And when you have a why, when you can connect with, identify with, and really intensify the reason inside of your heart, inside of your soul as to why you want this, then it doesn't matter how difficult it is, you're going to endure the how. So it's important to know your why, because it helps you to take the risk that you need to take. Everything in life, my friends, I think involves a certain amount of risk. There's absolutely no guarantee you going from where you are to achieve your goals. You could fail, but the only way you're going to know is if you take the risk. And the thing that drives you to take that risk is your why. It helps you to stay motivated when the chips are down, because we know that the road to the Olympic Games is just littered with setbacks and frustrations, and it's not all sunny smile and warm beaches, right? It's some cold, treacherous slopes as well. And it's when you fall over those cold, treacherous slopes that your why gives you the energy to climb back up and keep going. And so it also helps you to better understand what it is that is driving your behavior. Because in the end, we're going to talk about taking action later on. But in the end, it's your behavior, the things that you do on a daily basis that really accumulates and builds up to help you to get to where you want to go. And finally, when you understand your why, it helps you to be more intentional about your choices, right? Again, we'll go back to the conversation about your ability to respond. When you understand why you're doing what you're doing, then you're more intentional, more careful, more thoughtful about the choices that you make, because you know that those choices have consequences. So how do you identify your why is a question. Well, it starts, yes, with having that goal, and then start to think about, why it is that goal, that dream, that vision that you have is important to you. So it requires what I call some of the most difficult work that you'll ever have to do. And that is to be introspective. That is to, sit with yourself quietly, looking deep inside of yourself, right? Most of us are so reluctant to do that, to make some quiet time thinking about what it is that we want out of life, what we want for our life. What does our best self look like, as we spoke about earlier? And so that is what is required for you to, yes, take that quiet time thinking about how you want your life to be. Why is this goal, this vision that you have so important to you? How can you really connect with it so that whatever stands in your way, you can push yourself past it? So become introspective and then start asking the question, why? Why? So you want to, I don't know, run a 10K in 70 minutes, right? That you set that goal at the start of the year. The question is why? Well, because you want to get in shape, you want to get fit. Why? Because it will give you more energy and help you to be more productive. Why? Because then in becoming more productive, let's say you have your own business, you're able to earn more money, or on the job, you're able to get a promotion. Well, why? Because obviously it gives you more money, and that's important to you. Why? Because it helps you to become a more responsible parent, someone who's providing for the family. So if you keep asking yourself why, you'll be able to drill deeper and deeper into the real reason why this goal is important to you. So you start out with a goal of, running 10K in 70 minutes, but you are able to connect this idea of getting fit to your career or your business growth and success and your effectiveness and ability to, as a parent or spouse, to provide for your family. So really, really, really important to dig deep into those reasons. Number 4, my friends, is that you have to develop a success mindset. So such a key aspect of this journey from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games. In my mind, there are basically 2 kinds of people. There are those who have what I'm going to call a fixed mindset, and then there are those with a success mindset or a growth mindset. So people with a fixed mindset, they think that, where they find themselves, that's it, right? That God gave them a certain amount of intelligence and skill and abilities, and there's absolutely nothing in the world they can do to change it. And so, yes, whatever happens to them, and they have no other choice but to go through life as they are, because that's all they have. It's hard for me to relate to that, because I obviously don't believe that, and I'm sure none of you on the call believe that as well. We are people with a growth mindset, right? That's why I talk about keep on pushing. People with a growth mindset believes that, yes, you know what, I was born with a certain amount of abilities and intelligence and so on, but I can always learn. I can always acquire new skills. And all you have to do is to look back at your own life, at all the things that you have learned over the past to get to where you are now. And so your challenge is not to stop learning, but to constantly be acquiring new skills. As I said earlier, a big part of success is skill-based. And skills are things that you learn and you practice and you develop. And yeah, in the beginning, you're absolutely terrible at it. I'm sure you can think of many things in your life that you were not very good at when you just started out, but now you are pretty much an expert. So when you have a success mindset, you're thinking, okay, this is just a new thing that I have to learn in order to get to where I need to go. So let me start working and acquiring those skills. And that means that you have to embrace change. If there's one thing that is constant in our lives, is that it is change, right? Self-directed change and change that is thrust upon us. Again, we're right in the middle of this pandemic. That's change that is thrust upon us. It's incredibly disruptive. And so again, the person with a fixed mindset will throw their hands in the air and go, oh, there's nothing I can do about it, right? They're not taking personal responsibility. They're seeing themselves as a victim. Person with a success mindset is saying, okay, how do I navigate? I am accepting this situation. Let me figure out what I need to do in order to solve the issues that I'm dealing with right now, right? In addition to responding to the external change, you yourself are saying, there are certain things about me I need to change. The thing you have to remember is that the skill set and the knowledge and the experience that you have acquired to this point will only take you to this point. In order to get to the next level, you need more knowledge. You need to sharpen your skills. You need to add more skills. You need to gain more experience to get there, right? And that means throwing yourself out there, putting yourself out there, and being willing to change. That's what having a success mindset does. It also allows you then to see the good in every situation. It's like, what good can there be in every situation? Look at what we're experiencing now, Devon, where the world is in a lockdown, and I agree, and it's not the best things. Like you know, sometimes I'm easygoing because I'm Jamaican, I'm easygoing kind of guy, but yeah, I kind of feel like a little bit of a cabin fever setting in because I'm so accustomed to being on a plane going somewhere. And the last time I was on a plane was March of last year in San Diego, right? I would have very much loved to be on a plane, coming to Slovenia or being in Slovenia now. But there's good in this situation as well, because I think it allows, the lockdown allows me to work on some other things that I've been meaning to work on for the longest while. It in many ways has allowed me to actually do more events than I would have been able to do on a normal basis. Like, so here it is, I'm speaking to you guys in Slovenia. Last night I was speaking to a group in Australia. If we were traveling in a normal world, I couldn't have done both, right? So we have to learn, when you have the success mindset, you're able to see the good in every single situation. And it also helps you to build stronger relationships, I believe. Because you accept that, hey, you know what, this other person is just like me. They're not perfect. And so I have to look at the mistakes and the missteps that they make as if I had made those mistakes and missteps. Coach them along when I can, but also accept coaching and constructive criticisms from them as well. Because again, none of us are going to ever make this journey from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games by ourselves. And so, you know, being able to build stronger relationships on our way really makes the journey easier. Really important, two last points on this is defining success on your own terms. When you have a success mindset, you're able to do that. We live in a really competitive world, right? It starts with the sibling rivalry. If you're an only child, you probably missed out on that. But you know, the competition probably started there, and it went to school with just trying to get better grades, and parents and family expecting you to achieve or pursue a certain career. You know, and it can be debilitating. It can be very restrictive, right? It can really discourage some people from really striving because you're always trying to compare yourself to the success of the other person. And obviously I believe in competition as an Olympic athlete, right? I absolutely believe in competition, but I want to challenge, I want to encourage you to learn to define success on your own terms, because you did not start with the same circumstances or perhaps even advantages that the other person starts with. We all start at different starting points. And so it can be unfair of you to be comparing yourself to the other person when you didn't have the same advantages that they had, right? I'm not suggesting complacency. I'm saying, hey, learn to put things into perspective. So when I look on our team starting out and getting to the Olympics in 4 months, 4 or 5 months, having not seen a bobsled, to then compare ourselves to the Swiss team is nonsensical, because they have had over 100 years of experience in the sport of bobsledding. They have been doing, not necessarily all their lives, but for a large part of their lives as individual athletes, been doing the sport. And here it is that we are stepping up to the plate in 4 months, right? And so you have to, as I said earlier, keep challenging yourself, not making excuses, but learn to define success on your own terms. And then practice affirmations. Affirmations are simply the things that you say to yourself all the time, right? So having said that, there are negative affirmations. So that maybe I should have said here, practice positive affirmations. Learn, as I said earlier, to speak kindly and lovingly to yourself. Learn to tell yourself, yes, I can do this. Like, you know, my children's book, Yes, I Can. I remember when I released that, my friends would call me and go, hey, Obama is stealing your phrase, right? But that's what we do as Olympic athletes in real life, trying to get to the Olympic Games and trying to put our best foot forward when we're standing at the start line. There's no athlete, I promise you, standing in the field of competition telling themselves, no, I can't. They're saying, yes, I can. One of the things that inspired me to become an Olympian was just learning these incredible stories of these amazing athletes from all over the world, and how they develop this attitude of how I can instead of why I can't. And that, I think, goes to the conversation that they were having in their minds all along. So number 5 is you have to learn to take consistent action. You know, we live in a world that I call this microwave society, where everybody wants success and they want it now, man. Because we have heard so much about the overnight success. These people who seem to come from nowhere, or a company that seem to come out of nowhere and is tremendously successful. And what people fail to realize is the many, you know, long nights, hours, weeks, months, even years, these people were working in obscurity, so that one day it all came together and they appeared as if they were an overnight success. I read something a while back that says it takes 8 years on average to make an overnight success. So my friends, if you want to be an overnight success, well, you should have started 8 years ago. It requires you to take consistent action, right? Action is a foundational key to all success. Nothing happens without you taking action. And, you know, sometimes the action that you can take, given your circumstances, and when you compare to the grand scheme of things, is really small, right? But for you in that moment, it's huge, because that's all you can do and that's all you know how to do. But as I said earlier, even though the situation and the timing might not be perfect, when you just decide to launch, as you take those tiny actions, you begin to learn, you begin to refine, you begin to gain more knowledge, you become wiser, and you're able to keep on pushing and keep on going. Because all of us, despite what the people with a fixed mindset will think, all of us have ability. All of us have tremendous potential. But that potential is worthless if you do nothing. Because if you do nothing, you get nothing, right? When you take action, then that ignites and it turns that potential, that ability that you have, into accomplishment. Every Olympic athlete knows this. Every successful person knows this. All right? As I said earlier, no overnight success. There's a price you have to pay. There's a price you have to pay to receive the prize at the end. That is the action that you have to take consistently, not once in a while, right? The student knows that if he or she wants a great grade or to pass the exam, well, some people will cram the night before, but that's not sustainable, right? There's no Olympic athlete, except for the Jamaicans who turned up 4 months before, who think that they can just turn up to the Olympic Games and be successful. And I say, I joke about our team, but I say that about our team, but only jokingly, because I want you to understand this. Yes, we only saw a bobsled 4 months or so before the Olympic Games, but don't discount the months and years we spent in Jamaica in the boiling sun, honing and developing our athletic talents, so that one day somebody could teach us the very basics about pushing a bobsled, the rudimentary things about pushing a bobsled. And now we're able to take all those years of training, mentally and physically, developing our body, to apply it to this thing called bobsledding to create the results. So in that way, we pay the price, and it's clear because you know, we ended up with the 7th fastest start time at the Olympic Games. That's the years of practicing in Jamaica, developing our bodies. But we also crashed. So I think it proves my point. We also crashed because it takes about 7 years to develop a world-class bobsled driver. We had only invested 4 months, right? So there's a price that you have to pay. And nobody can shortcut the system. If you want the prize, if you want the prize at the end, you have to pay the price up front. So my challenge, my encouragement to you is to take on the persona of an Olympic athlete, right? If you're familiar with the Olympics, you'll know the Citius, Altius, Fortius. It's the Olympic motto that speaks to the athlete's desire for his body and mind and soul to always strive to accomplish a level that is beyond the one that he has already reached. And so if you are hoping to make it from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games and to continue to grow and succeed, that's a mindset that you have to have, and it takes the ability to take consistent action. I want you to be careful though, and not to succumb to the destination disease, I call it. So you know those people, you may have seen some of them on your job or in your business. They come and they are the keenest, hardest, most cooperative person ever, right? They work so hard and they're so impressive, and then they get recognition. They get a bonus, they get a raise, they get a promotion, and all of a sudden, wow, they have arrived. They have stopped working. They have succumbed to the destination disease, right? They have become comfortable. And I want to let you know that if you get stuck where you are, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever that situation is, you are robbing yourself of the potential of being awesome. If you get stuck, if you succumb to the destination disease, all that other potential that you have thrown away, right? You become complacent, and complacency breeds failure. Reminds me, after 1988, you know, our team made lots of trips to the US and all these promotional tours for the Jamaica Tourist Board. And one such trip was in LA. We went to see a Lakers game, and we met Mike Tyson. Mike himself had created history where he was the youngest heavyweight boxing champion in the world ever. In fact, he had beaten a Jamaican, Trevor Berbick, to win the title, right? And so being a proud, loyal Jamaican, I was about to whip the snot out of him and take the belt back. Yeah, honestly. But then I'm thinking to myself, he's a young guy. why create an international incident over a little belt? So I allowed them to keep the belt, right? And then, of course, if you know anything about boxing, you know that Mike Tyson was unbeatable. I mean, nobody could touch this guy until Buster Douglas, a guy who probably had no business being in the same arena, let alone the same ring. He knocked out Iron Mike. How is that possible? I think Mike got complacent, and when you watch documentaries, you'll hear that he didn't train as hard as he did in previous times before he faced Buster Douglas. Complacency, my friends, breeds failure. When you succumb to the destination disease, you become complacent and you breed and you fail. So never allow yourself to become a victim of your own success. Citius, altius, fortius. You have to keep on pushing, trying to get yourself to the next level. Here's another warning. Perfection or perfectionism. You need to shun that. Take it from me. I'm a reformed perfectionist. It is an amazing idea, you know, striving for perfection, because it really motivates you to work hard, right? And you need to work hard. It allows you to just go at it because you're trying to be perfect. But guess what? You'll never be perfect. Perfectionism will never be satisfied. Doesn't matter what you accomplish, perfectionism is going to say, oh, not good enough. You could move mountains and it would say, well, the mountain should have been taller, I didn't move it far enough. And that is going to deflate you. It's going to demotivate you at some stage of the game, right? It's such a impossible standard to reach. So I'm going to suggest that instead of trying to be perfect, strive for excellence. What's excellence? It really is just you giving off your absolute best every time. I think it's difficult, if not impossible, to be perfect. But what I'm sure of is that you can always be excellent, because in any given situation, you can give your absolute best. And if you develop that habit of giving your absolute best, you'll be an excellent person. And finally, persistence. You have to be persistent. There is a story of persistence behind every successful person, every successful business, every successful group, every successful team, every successful company, you name it, right? There's never a person who has succeeded without having to deal with some challenges, some obstacles, some setbacks, some frustrations. As I said earlier, that journey from Olympic Gardens, man, up to the Olympic Games is a tough one, right? You have to deal with those unforeseen challenges. You have to deal with the internal obstacles, you know, the thought that you will have from time to time that you don't have what it takes to get to Olympic Gardens, to the Olympic Games, that is such a difficult climb that it just seems impossible. You have to recognize, though, that whatever the dream is, whatever the vision is, if you dream of great things, if you dream of providing tremendous value in your business, whatever it is, those are going to be tested. Life is going to test you without apology, right? But you have to remember, it's only a test. It is only a test, and your answer, your response to life test is your determination, is your persistence. It's your ability to keep on pushing no matter how difficult it is. You know, I think back to our early years in bobsledding, and having, as I said earlier, just learning the sport and having this steep learning curve, but at the same time having no funding. I remember being in Calgary. It was a really, really cold day at 21 years old, hard days training, and all I had enough money for dinner all I could afford was a chicken leg, a roll, and a small soda. Even as we went to Europe, I remember being in Austria, we'd go to the clubs at night, and we would boogie up beside a couple with a bag of shirt under our arms and go, hey man, you want to buy a shirt? Oftentimes the guy would say no, but the girl said yes, and he ended up buying, and we got dinner. More recently, as I trained to go to Nagano, January 1997, I'm in Calgary, and the coach says to me, you know, Devon, if you don't get sponsorship by June, you should quit. You should quit because you'll be chasing pipe dreams. And I agreed with him. June, no sponsorship, I'm quitting. I agreed with him only because I was so sure June would come, I'd have the sponsorship, and so the whole conversation would have been irrelevant. Well, what do you know? June came and I didn't have the first dime. So I quit that one time. I think you know I'm joking, right? I didn't quit. I didn't quit because I don't know how to quit. I do not know how to quit. So instead, I moved to Evanston, Wyoming. It's about 50 miles outside of Park City, where the 2002 Olympics were. And I'm training 8 hours a day, and I'm delivering pizzas at night, right? I'm figuring a way to keep the dream alive. And at the time, my right knee was swollen 1.5 times its size. I had a torn meniscus. I had the beginnings of arthritis. And I remember I'd go to the track in the morning, and I'm warming up, and I'm working my way through the pain on the first lap. And now the infamous R. Kelly had a song, I believe I can fly. So I'm singing that song. I believe I can touch the sky. I'm working my way through the pain on the second lap, and I'm singing, if I can see it, vision, then I can be it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. July, August, September, October, no sponsorship. I'm still believing, man. Frustrated as hell, I have to admit, right? I didn't say it was going to be easy. October, November, December came. No sponsorship. January 1998, weeks before it was time to go to Nagano, I got sponsorship from a company in Salt Lake City. I'm a 3-time Olympian in part because I didn't quit. So you have to learn to develop the ability to endure in the face of all difficulties, right? You cannot afford to quit on your dreams. Now, make no mistake about it. People who made that journey from Olympic Gardens to the Olympic Games, they quit all the time. They quit all the time. They quit on the strategy. They quit on the tactics, right? They quit on the way they do things. They change things. They change their strategies. They don't quit on the dream. That's the difference between persistence and stubbornness, right? Because a stubborn person will not quit, but they will not change anything about what they do. They'll keep knocking their head against the wall, expecting different results, right? And what I'm saying is, no, stop doing that. Figure out different ways, right, to sell T-shirts, which we did in in Evanston as well. Deliver pizzas. I was telling my son just this past week that I got a real education into commerce in America because I was trying so hard to find sponsorship, and I ran out of ideas. I took a notebook and I would walk down the aisle in the supermarket, writing down the name of the products, and then I'll go find the companies to go write to them, asking for sponsorship. And so the education there was like only a few companies own all of these products, and some of them had told me no already, right? So if you develop this ability to just keep on pushing, keep on trying, enduring, yes, you will change the strategies, but you won't quit on the dream. And so when you're persistent, man, it creates there's an interesting relationship, I would say, between confidence in yourself and your ability to persist. Think about it. The only reason why you persist is because you think you believe, you know that you can do it, right? You're confident in your ability to get it done. Otherwise, you wouldn't persist. The amazing thing is that the more confident you are in your ability, the more you persist. And then the more you persist, the more confident you become in your ability. So you create this upward spiral. And I want to let you know that, when you have the reputation, or when you really, perhaps more importantly, think of yourself as that person that, he will never quit, she will never quit. That group, that company, if they say they're going to do it, it's money in the bank. When you have that reputation, when you've created that strong belief about yourself, that image of yourself, your success is virtually guaranteed. So that's my challenge. Don't quit. Final thing, I want to share with you what I call the 4 P's of persistence. The 4 P's. The first one is the power of purpose, which we touched on this business of purpose earlier. It's just having this thing that is outside of yourself and bigger than yourself. If you just spend a minute to listen to the stories of Olympic athletes, just randomly choose a country, choose a sport, choose an athlete, right? You're going to find a common theme among all of them. And it is this thing called purpose, this thing of pursuing something that is outside of yourself. Are we feeling a sense of pride and gratitude and accomplishment getting to the Olympics? Absolutely. But there's no stronger, more powerful feeling than marching in an opening ceremony or stepping up to the start line in your national colors. Win, lose, or draw. And you will go to hell and back, right? You will persist because of that purpose. It is the same in your business, it's the same in your relationships. You have to connect with that purpose. And no matter what, how challenging it gets, you are going to persist. Passion, man. Wow. I continued with bobsledding because it was in my blood. I could not get it out. I do what I do now because it's in my blood. I cannot get it out, right? I cannot. When you're passionate, it really drives you. The obstacles, no matter how big they are just there, like annoyances, because your passion is going to drive you to push through them, push around them, push onto them, whatever it is that you need to do. So the power of purpose, the power of passion are key. And then what I call the power of positive possibilities. And what this is, my friends, is basically you have to believe that somehow or another, and you don't have to know how, you just have to believe, man, that somehow or another it's going to work out. And so you keep taking actions, right? You keep making intentional choices, as I said earlier, right? Because you're taking responsibility for your situation, and you keep working, keep changing strategies, keep trying new things, because one of these things has to work, right? One of these things have to work. That's the power of positive possibilities. That just, sooner or later, I know the Olympics are coming up, but I have to keep working, I have to keep trying, I have to keep on pushing, because it has to work out. And then the power of the past is really key. And so I wanted to think back to a time in your past. Could even be kindergarten, where you got the little star, right? Every one of us have experiences of success, right? So as athletes, we think about all those trophies that we won when we were kids and coming up the ranks, right? And you can always think back to those moments and go, yeah, those moments represent a time when I faced a challenge, I stood up, you know, and I succeeded. I pushed myself past those challenges, those obstacles. And so what I am challenging you to do is to, when things get tough, to think back to a time when you had to overcome some kind of challenge, it doesn't matter what, and remind yourself that if you did it then, you can do it now. You're the same person. In fact, you're even wiser and stronger for the experience in the past. So reflect on the past and use that as the engine to push you past your challenges. So yeah, those are the thoughts I really wanted to share with you. I'm about 2 minutes and 3 minutes short of the 90 minutes. But those are the thoughts I wanted to share with you. I thank you so much for the chance to spend some time with you, sharing my experiences, sharing my insights. And we have some time. I'll be happy to take some questions or comments.
Thank you, Devon. It's been very inspiring since no matter that I have heard your story, so I know your background probably more than any other participants here. And yes, it's the most difficult thing is to deal with yourself. That means to think about you, I mean about yourself, what you can change, what you can drive, and what you can impact. I have a quick question for you. I found the most challenging for people to build their own belief. What would be your quick answer how people can create the belief in what they intend to do or in what they are after?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Andre, because I think, you know, having a strong belief in yourself is so integral, such an important, you know, ingredient in the cake of success, let's say. For me, I think it starts with, first of all, that desire, that vision that we spoke about, right? So you know, I hated being at that lamppost, right? I hated what that represented. I hated the experience there. And so there, you know, I'm looking up on foresters and I'm seeing that it's not even 5 miles away. There are these people who are living so much better, man. It did feel like a world away, that it was almost impossible. But as I said earlier, the vision gives you a sense that it's possible. And so if you can create that sense in yourself that it's possible, if you can have the hope that, man, if I just try, it could possibly work. The more you try, the more you work on that plan, taking it, you know, one step at a time, obviously, you start to get a sense that, whoa, you know what? You start to grow a belief in yourself as you work to get to the next hurdle and the next hurdle. And so belief, like persistence and many other things, I describe it as a muscle. It's something that grows. And you may start out with a really weak belief, but if it can, if you can just get to the next one and the next one and the next one, you start believing in yourself more and more. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Če ima kdo kakšno vprašanje, izvolite. Če bi rad kdo zastavil vprašanje v slovenščini, tudi ni problem, bomo pomagali prevesti. Bernarda, mogoče s tvoje strani kakšno vprašanje?
Maybe in your book, Keep on Pushing, you acknowledge to your wife and your grandma. What is your opinion about success? But success is not is a teamwork, isn't it? Or it's because we are thinking about how to push ourselves, how to brought this inner motivation come to us, out of us? What do you think about this teamwork or have some sparing body to talk to? Or
Yeah, thank you for that, Bernarda. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, one of the things I talk about all the time is, yeah, teamwork, the fact that none of us succeed by ourselves. Does it start with us as individuals? Absolutely, right? You have to, you know, display the drive and the determination that's necessary, but you need other people to encourage you. You need other people to sometimes give you a swift kick up the, you know what, because, you know, every now and again, every one of us deserve that. I was very fortunate, you know, at the beginning that people asked me, you know, who was the person that inspired you the most? And I blame my grandmother. It's her fault, right? Because when I was a young kid, you know, 7 months to about 5 years, I think I lived with her. She was an amazing storyteller, and she just told me these incredible stories. And the ones that stuck with me, though, were the ones she told me about soldiers and the amazing feat they could perform and not get injured. And so that inspired me to want to be a soldier. But more importantly, it inspired me to want to take on things, pursue results that other people thought were difficult or impossible. And that has truly stayed with me, you know, my entire life. To go back to Andre's question, as you see these kind of crazy, impossible goals ahead of you, and you try this one little thing and it worked, you go, oh, yeah, you believe, you develop that belief, and it just continues to grow. And, you know, I had to acknowledge my wife as well, because, you know, as I came back from the Olympics, I'm like, what do I do with my life now? You know, not speeding on a Bobster track and then just trying to, you know, and anybody who has started business know that it takes a while. And so she was very supportive. So you need that partner, that teammate to help you to achieve your goals.
Great. We have one question also in the chat. What was the biggest challenge on your way to success? What was the most painful thing? Can you describe a little bit?
All right. So I'll talk the first part. What was the most painful thing? I'm gonna have to think about that for a minute. I think the biggest challenge, to go back to your question, Andre, so I'm blaming you now, is the belief. is really the belief, man, because let's just think about the pictures that I shared with you, standing at that lamppost and then ending up saying, how do you do that, right? But as I said earlier, as you, if you really get it in your blood that, man, this is what I want, and then you start pursuing it and you start achieving these little successes along the way, it grows your belief. But it's kind of like sports, Andre. You know, you get to a certain level this year, but there's always another level to get to, right? So there's always a challenge and always a need to keep working on that belief until it can get stronger and stronger. So I really struggled with that belief all the way through, but you know, I am unwilling, I guess is the word. I am unwilling to do without that which I want. And so whatever I need to do to build the belief, I have to do it. I was just yesterday speaking, because every Monday morning I do a session with ex and current members of the Jamaica Defense Force on WhatsApp. And I was talking about when I was a young officer and I'm sitting in the officers' mess with my peers and feeling so out of place. Because in a normal world, I'd be back in the hood up against a wall with them searching me. And here it is, I was breaking bread with them. And I had to really work on my mind to convince myself that I belonged there, because I've gone through the exact process that they went through. It wasn't given to me, right? I had to go through the selection process, you know, which I didn't talk about, but when I went, there were 33 of us, and before we got into the test itself, we were down to 9, and I was a top pick of only 3, right? and I went to Sandhurst, so I did everything. And so it's a constant struggle, the belief. The most painful part of the journey. You know, I was asked this recently, and a question I'd never been asked before, and I think somebody asked what was the price, and I think it was lonely, man. It was lonely. It is lonely, because not many people start from where I started, and I didn't have anybody to go with me. I remember I was at Sandhurst, and we had this fancy dinner, and all the candidates were allowed to have their father there. I didn't have mine, you know, and I remember that was probably the first time I'm like, wow, this is really lonely. I'll do anything to have my father here, but he couldn't be there, you know, so I've had to go through this by myself.
Thank you for your honesty, and we all feel your deep awareness and deep personality. I'm going to continue tomorrow with the same group, so I need to leave some of my thoughts for tomorrow. But I just want to emphasize, yes, the challenges are important part of everyone's life, and I think that solving the challenges is the key which makes the difference among the people. And I think the crucial thing is to be reminded that not you are the only one going through or facing the challenges. There are many others, maybe with even greater challenges. And that's why I think that we have to have a playground where we can share experience, other one's thoughts, other one's challenges, not because to overwhelm them, but to see or to rely what basically human beings are possible or are capable of. And I think it's not a better time than now after this crazy, strange situation for everyone, no matter athletes, business owners, educational institutions, kids, parents, grandparents, for everyone it's been challenging. And I think to have a chance to share or to hear some of views or challenges others are facing are great gripping points for many to move on.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I, again, appreciate the opportunity to be able to share. I think one of the things that you and I recognize, being in an Olympic village 3 times is you see all these people from around the world, and you obviously have an appreciation for what they did in order to make it there. But you see how each challenge, each person dealing with their challenge, where they were able to overcome that, right? And you recognize that those experiences, those the knowledge and insights gained from those experiences are applicable to other people, other aspects of lives as well, because the success principles are universal. So hopefully, me sharing my journey, provided you with a nugget or 2 that you can then apply to your own life as well.
Thanks. Bernarda, jaz oziroma vse prisotne bi prosil, če se bo komu, ko bo predstavil kakšno idejo ali pa dobil kakšno vprašanje, lahko mirno jutri ga ponovite oziroma ga jutri načnete, jutri z isto ekipo nadaljujemo. Mislim, da ima Bernarda za vas še nekaj informacij. Mislim pa, da lahko vsi unmutate mikrofon zdaj in se zahvalite Devonu, zaradi tega, ker on je v New Yorku in Zanj se je dan šele začel, sicer na zelo emotiven način, ki ga je delil z nami. Mislim, da smo mu lahko za to izjemno hvaležni, tako da mu vsak lahko reče oziroma zaželi karkoli. Bernarda, tebe pa prosim, da še zaključiš tale Devonov del. Devon,
Yeah.
thank bro. It was inspiring from my side. I will give the word to other people so they might. There are many great comments on in the chat box. Thanking you for your inspiring speech. I asked them to unmute themselves so they can say a word to you. I will be in touch with you, and I will leave. I will hand over the word to Bernarda to close this meeting. Okay?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to share my my IG and my Twitter. So let's connect with you if you're so inclined. Looking forward to chatting and continue the conversation with everyone.